This little light of mine.
My name is Silver Jose Sargent, better known as Silver Star Sargent. The ending is really the beginning. It really is. Where I'm at now, God has showed me that He said your latter will be greater than your former. And that's the promise I go on. And sure enough, I see all these things coming into fruition, coming together, So, I was born May 5th, 1950, in Middletown, Ohio is where I was born. My childhood was relatively, I felt, somewhat lonely, because for a long time, I thought I was the only child. But my mother played for the church before she went off to school to become a nurse. And she was really good. She played gospel music, things of that nature. And when she went off to go to school, she went to Boston. Dad was like salt and pepper, in and out of my life, and mostly out than in, for that matter, But, that's my childhood, though, growing up. Got into music because my mother played piano for the church. I gravitated to singing, because they would have me sing all the time in church. I was part of the junior choir at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Middletown, Ohio. My mother played piano and I would be singing. And that's what I did very well, particularly at that particular time as a kid, Initially, I didn't get into the business of music. I didn't know there was a business of music. Only thing I knew is that I wanted to be a musician. And so I moved to Boston with my mother. She sent for me. I'll never forget that. I think I was around 11 or 12 then. When my father visited one day, and my father knocked on the door, and I answered the door. So I opened the door, and I swung the door open, and there was my father, and said, "Look here, look who I got with me." And he brought him in, and it was Harold. He said, "This is your brother." So that's when I realized I had a big brother. I was ecstatic and super happy. And we walked into the living room aspects of the house. And that particular Christmas, my mother had bought me a drum set. So we walked in, and Harold saw the drums. He said, "You got a drum set?" And he grabbed the sticks and jumped over on the drums and started playing it. And I mean, when I say playing it, he was really playing it. He played it with a pro, we just had that funk and everything, jazz or anything. He just played it. He was a professional when I first met my brother playing drums. and so that was a thrill. So I instantly thought then, I just said, this is it. I'm gonna be down with my brother. Well, we got down later on in life. I ended up always with the groups that he was around and with, and doing things for, and traveling, gigging, and all that else. And he taught me a lot as it relates to music and people in the industry and who to watch out for and things of that nature. And that's my first introduction to real music. I guess they were notable in the sense that they were known, like Sugar Hill Gang, Lucy Collins, and anybody who was down with George Clinton, and those people like that, you know. Even James Brown, you know, because James, I believe he was had a studio that he worked out of. It was called King Studio at the time, you know. So Harold was down with he was involved with all those type people there earlier on, which I was excited about all that stuff, you know. But the Sugar Hill Gang was a group he was producing and playing for Sugar Hill Records and all that type of stuff. And from there, the list really goes on and on and on, you know, from there. The section of Boston I lived in was Roxbury, and I would roam through Dorchester. I was always singing. My thing during that time was singing in the street. Everything that came out of my mouth was a melody. If I was conversating with anybody, I would sing everything, anything. If I was chasing girls, hey baby, I would, you know, it was just, everything was singing for me. And the kids that I ran into was, we started a group, because they sang, and the people I hung around with people that just like music or like dance or like the arts always. And Curtis Clark was, and Leonard Payne, these guys, and we started a group called the Uniques very early on when I got there to Boston. And we went through the ranks of contesting everybody in the area. Anybody that was into music, singing and stuff like that, young kids there was a lot of groups on winos on the corners, you know, and we would laugh at them while they was drinking and everything, but we would out-sing them, you know, with our harmony and everything. We'd copy their harmony for that matter, to be quite honest. And that's how I grew up in Boston, was singing. One of my members of the group was Leonard Payne. His mother was a jazz vocalist in the old Billie Holiday style, and she could blow. But she had so many kids, she wasn't trying to do her anymore as it relates to singing. She had a piano in her household, and Will is Leonard Payne. He would bang on the piano, and his sister, Jackie, older sister, she would know how to play, so she just kind of put us together and said, come on, y'all gonna sing. I'm gonna teach you harmony. And so she went about doing that. That's how we learned to harmonize, as well as watching the winos on the corner, harmonizing and whatnot, because everybody was, and music was everything, you know, in Boston. We got so good, my man's mother, Jackie's mother as well, Jackie Payne, who got us together singing at his house. She took it upon herself to be the designated manager for us. So her quest was to get us all over the place, to get us exposure, in which she succeeded at.
Bring about a few highlights, something I'm sure all of you would like to hear. Starting off with Superfly.
He was in town in Boston, a young Curtis Mayfield, and she brought us to him to audition. He liked us, but he didn't like us enough to do anything with us. He said, after he listened to us, he said, you got a nice sound, but I don't work with dogs, animals, or babies, or kids. Needless to say, we didn't do anything. He didn't do anything with us or for us or whatever, you know. But she was determined to get us exposure. So she took us to the Apollo Theater. She took us to New York, and we won first place at the Apollo Theater as the singing group, the Uniques. I'm real proud of that.
From New York City, from home, USA, the Apollo Theater presents the Motortown Review.
During that time, the prize was S&H stamps. You know, that they had catalog stamps, and you get a whole bunch of stamps for a catalog to buy anything you want to buy. Well, I don't want to have nothing to do with them stamps. I was looking for some kind of trophy or something, your record deal, you know, some kind of deal. That didn't occur. There's a lot of people I met during that time. I met a guy named Bob Green, Robert Green, and he had his dream was to build a studio in his basement. I provided the a TEAC, 4-track TEAC. That's the first studio that I had. In fact, that TEAC even went over to the Johnson Brothers' house too. My brother's group was recording at a studio called The Gallery, and that was in East Hartford. And when I could, I would always be hanging around them, with hopes of being in the group one day. And Doug Clark is the owner of that studio. Well, after meeting him and striking up a friendship and everything, I asked him for a job at a studio. He said, "Well, I can't pay you." I said, "You don't have to pay me. All I would like for you is to give me studio time." He gave me a job, didn't pay me a dime, but what he paid me was in studio time. And I stayed with him for about a year and a half, learning the craft of what goes on in a recording studio. Well, I brought a lot of business in there too. My brother and I both brought a lot of business into a studio. We were actually able to start producing any and everybody that was trying to do music, and Harold knew all the talent. And I brought people in from Boston to record with me. People like Prince Charles Alexander, Maurice Starr.
So Maurice produced these 2 records for me. They were awesome. That record was a hit. It launched my career as Prince Charles, and I've been Prince Charles ever since. And it was really a phenomenal situation, and I guess a guy like that comes along once in a lifetime.
But he wasn't Maurice Starr at the time. He was Larry Johnson. Him and his brothers, they came down and record there. So I became an executive producer, and I did get credit for co-producing and with my brother, and that was a wonderful thing for all parties concerned, you know. I met the Johnson brothers in Boston. All of us were teenagers then. I met them. They when they first came from DeLand, Florida. Their mother sent them. They came on a Greyhound bus from DeLand, Florida, and stayed with their uncle in I forget the area, but it was in Dorchester. The first Johnson brother I met was Donnie Johnson. He's Sonny Ali now, but his name was Donnie Johnson. And he heard me sing in Franklin Park. because I was, like I said, I was always singing in the streets and whatnot. And he was blown away. He said, "Oh man, you got to meet my brothers." So we went to the rehearsal over the Johnson brothers' house, and I met everybody there, all the Johnson brothers. It was 6 of them. Oh, Donnie brought me in there and said, "Man, this cat here, Silver, this cat here will outsing Larry." Larry said, "Really?" So he walked over to me, "Yeah, let's hear you go." And so I sang. And all of them gathered around me. I didn't know what they was going to do then. They said, "Man, you can sing." The first project that I did any collaboration on was a song that we did called Jailbait. All right? And that song was recorded on my TAC machine. So that was our first collaboration, was taking my TAC and putting it in their room while they was rehearsing and stuff like that. But Jailbait was the first project we ever collaborated on, I should say. And that was going to be on his album that hadn't come out yet. He hadn't had an album then. I was going back and forth from Boston to Hartford. When I was in Hartford, I was trying to be a part of my brother's band, Wood, Brass, and Steel. But before they were Wood, Brass, and Steel, they were the Ohio Hustlers, because they had came from Ohio. I went back to Boston and started doing what I did there with Maurice and them. But they was a rock-sounding group when they first came to Boston. They played rock. In fact, that's what they thought their claim to fame was going to be, rock. I wasn't in the rock, I was in the funk, all right? But they were still great musicians. We became real close, and they asked me one day, 2 brothers embarked upon a quest themselves. They come up to me and said, "Sarge, how'd you get hooked up with the Sugar Hill Gang?" Right? Because everybody in Boston thought I was a part of the group, Wood, Brass, and Steel, that was in Connecticut, going to record at All Platinum, which became Sugar Hill, all right, with Sugar Hill Gang. But I really wasn't. I was the leader's kid brother, because that's what I did a lot. I was going to Boston to be with my friends there, which were the Johnson brothers. The Uniques, we had broke up when I left. My friends were the Johnson brothers, so that's who my crew was. During that time, the success of Sugar Hill, the group, was pretty enormous. So I said to them, all you gotta do, I said, go meet my friends, Joe Robinson and Sylvia Robinson, his wife. They own Sugar Hill, all right? They own All Platinum, own Sugar Hill. And tell them that you're my cousin. That's how it went down. That was the advice I gave them. They went down there and got a deal and started producing a couple of songs there. And they came back and started building a studio in Boston, which I was a part of. Then Maurice got a deal at RCA. And that's on the wall somewhere. It's that one right there called The Flaming Star. That's Maurice's one of his first records. collaborating, we did collaborate on a lot of things. Did I get any credit? No, not really. But I got acknowledged. You know, I'm on the albums and whatnot. You know, special thanks to Cuz, Silver Sergeant, right? Which was fine with me. So when a break came for him, he remembered his first break through us, going down and getting his deal as meager as it might have been. It was still $10,000 through Sugar Hill, and he respected that. And so when he was doing the New Edition, I was on the road with Sugar Hill. You know?
The bass player Doug Wimbish said that the first time he heard Rapper's Delight, he was at Leo's Welfare Disco, which was next door to a welfare office in Connecticut. Because Doug Wimbish had a trained ear and he's a musician, he knew immediately that that record, Rapper's Delight, was recorded at All Platinum Studios.
You kids are the world's highest paid entertainers.
For the budding buying habits of youngsters, rock and roll represents a world of merchandising opportunities. By one estimate, children 6 to 14 years old control $6 billion in discretionary income.
Well, let me tell you, I wasn't upset during the time because I was very happy to be down. That's all right. I was just happy to be down and around and knowing that I'm with the best there is. Guess I was a kept friend, if you will, you know. But I was kept for positive reasons that they could utilize and make happen. I had a lot of great ideas that other people capitalized on, and I didn't mind. Didn't bother me, you know. But I would be. It got so good, I got notoriety. When the new kids would do a concert or something like that, huge stadiums, he said, "Y'all want to meet my cuz?"